In the world we live in, your greatest enemy is not outside. It's the battle happening inside your mind. Steve Jobs once said, "Focus is about saying no." But behind that simple statement lies a darker truth. The power to control your mind is the power to shape your destiny. A war is happening right now. And it's not being fought with weapons or soldiers. It's fought for your attention every single day. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, something is trying to pull you away from yourself. Your phone buzzes, a headline screams, a video auto plays, and without realizing it, your focus, the most valuable resource you own, is stolen. Steve Jobs understood this better than anyone. He knew that attention is the foundation of creativity, innovation, and leadership. If you control your attention, you control your destiny. But if you allow others to hijack it, you become a passenger in your own life, dragged in every direction except the one you choose. When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was drowning. They had dozens of products, no clear direction, no focus. And what did he do? He cut everything down, from more than a dozen product lines to just 4. That was not a business decision. It was an attention decision. He knew that scattered attention produces scattered results. And so he forced Apple to concentrate its genius on what mattered most. That decision didn't just save Apple, it defined its future. This is the first lesson in the war for your mind. Attention is power. The one who commands attention commands outcomes. Think about it. Why do companies fight for your screen time? Why do algorithms chase your scroll? Because they understand something most people don't. Your attention is currency. Whoever spends it wisely becomes wealthy in knowledge, clarity, and vision. Whoever wastes it becomes bankrupt in purpose. But here's the hard truth: most people are not in control of their attention. They wake up, and the first thing they do is reach for their phone. They scroll through feeds designed to distract. They consume noise instead of silence, entertainment instead of insight, distraction instead of direction. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, why they feel unmotivated, why their dreams feel far away. The answer is simple. They've given their attention away to the highest bidder. Jobs refused to play that game. He lived in a world of deep focus. Meetings at Apple were stripped down to essentials. No wasted slides, no endless chatter. When he walked into a room, he wanted clarity, not clutter. He believed that your brain has only so much space, and if you fill it with garbage, there's no room left for genius. That's why he was obsessed with simplicity. To him, simplicity wasn't just design, it was survival. The war for your mind is a war for your focus. And if you lose that, you lose everything else. Think about how many ideas are buried because people never gave them enough attention to grow. How many dreams die, not because they weren't possible, but because someone was too distracted to pursue them. Attention is the soil where your future grows. If you let weeds of distraction overrun it, nothing meaningful will take root. So, what does this mean for you? It means you must begin treating attention like sacred ground. Every time you say yes to a distraction, you are saying no to your future. Every time you let your mind be pulled in 10 directions, you are robbing yourself of the chance to go deep in one. Jobs understood this at his core. That's why he built Apple products to feel almost invisible, to disappear into the background, so the user's attention could remain on creating, not fiddling. He wasn't selling devices, he was selling clarity. And here's the paradox. The same technology that can empower us can also enslave us. The very tools designed to expand our minds can also shrink them if we allow them to control us instead of the other way around. Jobs once said, "Focus means saying no." But he didn't just mean saying no to competitors or distractions in the marketplace. He meant saying no in your personal life, in your daily decisions, in the very moments that define you. Because the truth is, every notification you check, every distraction you indulge, is not just stealing seconds. It is shaping your mind. And the war for your mind is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in quietly, one wasted minute at a time, until you wake up and realize you've been living on autopilot. The people who win this war are not the smartest or the fastest. They are the ones who master the art of directing their attention deliberately, fiercely, and without compromise. They decide what deserves their focus, and they ruthlessly cut out everything else. That's how Steve Jobs operated. That's how Apple turned from a failing company into the most valuable brand on earth. The war for your mind is not only about focus. It is also about identity. Who you believe you are will either empower you or enslave you. And in a world filled with noise, opinions, and endless comparisons, the greatest danger is allowing someone else to define you. Steve Jobs knew this intimately. He understood that the strongest weapon in life is not technology, not money, not even talent. It is identity. Because identity shapes behavior. Identity dictates decisions. Identity builds empires or destroys them. Most people live in identities that were handed to them by others. From the time you are a child, the world begins labeling you. Parents tell you what is possible. Teachers tell you what you're good at. Friends tell you who you should be. The system tells you what success looks like. Slowly, without even realizing it, you begin living inside an identity that isn't yours. And once that cage is built, you stop questioning it. You accept it. You surrender to it. And in that surrender, you lose the war for your mind. Jobs refused to live in that cage. From a young age, he was different. He was rebellious, difficult, and often misunderstood. But behind that rough exterior was a deep truth. He did not allow others to define who he was. He designed his identity with the same precision that he designed Apple products. Every detail mattered. Even the black turtleneck and jeans, simple, consistent, unchanging. That was not fashion. That was identity. It was a uniform that sent a message: I am not here for trends. I am here for timelessness. I am not here to impress. I am here to build. This is what most people never understand. Your identity is not something you stumble into. It is something you create, intentionally, deliberately, unapologetically. And if you do not build it, the world will build it for you. But the world will never build it in your favor. The world will build it in a way that keeps you predictable, distracted, and safe. Safe is the enemy of great. Predictable is the death of the extraordinary. Jobs built Apple in his image. Think about it, the simplicity, the minimalism, the obsession with beauty and function. It wasn't just design. It was his identity expressed in product form. Apple was Steve Jobs. Every device, every commercial, every launch event was an extension of who he was. That is the power of identity. When it is strong, it doesn't just guide your life. It transforms everything you touch. But here is the darker lesson. Identity can also be used against you if you accept the labels people place on you. Not smart enough, too late, too different, too broken. Then those words become walls. You will walk around your entire life, trapped inside an identity that doesn't belong to you. That is how the war for your mind is lost. Not in a single moment, but in the slow erosion of self-belief, until you no longer remember who you are. Jobs was never the best engineer at Apple. He wasn't the best programmer. He wasn't the most agreeable leader. But he was relentless about one thing: identity. He saw himself as a visionary, a creator, someone who could see the invisible and bring it into reality. That identity became his compass. It drove his choices. It shaped his confidence. It allowed him to stand on stage and convince the world that what seemed impossible was inevitable. And it wasn't just about him. He used identity as a weapon to shape his team. He called Apple employees pirates, not soldiers. Why? Because pirates don't follow rules. Pirates rewrite them. Pirates break boundaries. Pirates make history. He didn't just build products, he built identities. And those identities became the fuel for everything Apple accomplished. The question is not whether identity is powerful. The question is who is holding the pen that writes yours. Are you the author, or are you reading from a script handed to you by someone else? Every brand, every leader, every creator who has shaped history began with a clear identity. They knew who they were, even when the world didn't believe in them. Jobs' identity as an innovator was mocked, doubted, and ridiculed. But he wore it like armor. And that armor carried him through rejection, through failure, through setbacks that would have broken anyone else. Because identity is not just about what you wear or what you call yourself. It is about what you refuse to compromise. It is about the vision you protect when no one else can see it. It is about the standards you uphold, even when people tell you they are too high. Identity, in the war for your mind, is your strongest defense and your deadliest weapon. Every dream worth chasing comes with a price, and the higher the dream, the heavier the cost. The war for your mind is not won with talent alone. It is won with sacrifice. It is won with obsession. It is won by those who are willing to give up comfort for creation, applause for focus, and approval for vision. Steve Jobs embodied this truth. He was not interested in balance. He was not interested in living an ordinary life. He was consumed by a fire that demanded his full attention, his full energy, his very soul. And for him, greatness was not a choice. It was an obsession. The world often celebrates success, but it rarely talks about what must be lost to achieve it. Jobs sacrificed friendships, relationships, and even his image in the pursuit of his vision. He was called arrogant, difficult, and even cruel, and maybe he was. But behind that sharp exterior was a relentless drive, a refusal to settle, an obsession with building something that would outlast him. When Apple was struggling in the late 1990s, Jobs did not ease his pace. He demanded more from his team than they thought possible. Nights blurred into mornings. Projects were torn apart and rebuilt from scratch. There was no comfort, no shortcuts, no compromise. To Jobs, obsession was not madness. It was survival. If you wanted to create products that would change the world, you could not treat them like ordinary work. You had to live them. You had to breathe them. You had to become them. Most people run from sacrifice. They want success, but they also want comfort. They want achievement, but they also want approval. They want to be remembered, but they also want to be liked. And so they live in the middle, chasing dreams with half their heart, protecting comfort with the other. But history does not remember the balanced. It remembers the obsessed. Jobs once stood on stage and said, "We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here?" That wasn't marketing. That was obsession speaking. That was a man who could not accept the ordinary. That was a man who believed life was too short to play small. And to make that dent, he knew the cost would be everything. Look closely at the iPhone, the iPod, the Mac. These weren't just products. They were monuments of sacrifice. Every curve, every pixel, every line of code carried the weight of sleepless nights, endless arguments, and a leader who refused to compromise. Jobs pushed people beyond their limits, sometimes breaking them, because he believed obsession was the only path to true innovation. And here's the uncomfortable truth: he was right. The war for your mind will never be won by those who dabble. It will only be won by those who are consumed. If you want to rise above the noise, if you want to build something the world cannot ignore, you must be willing to pay the price that most people will never pay. Sacrifice is not glamorous. It is lonely. It is painful. It is the quiet rejection of comfort when no one is watching. It is working on your vision while others are distracted by entertainment. It is saying no to everything that pulls you away from your purpose, even when saying no costs you relationships, opportunities, and even love. But obsession doesn't ask for permission. It demands everything. Jobs lived with that demand every single day. He did not simply work at Apple, he became Apple. His identity, his focus, his obsession, they were inseparable from the company's DNA. To him, sacrifice wasn't a loss. It was fuel. Every comfort he gave up, every moment he pushed harder, every boundary he broke, it fed his vision. That is why people followed him, even when he was difficult to follow, because they sensed something rare, something burning, something unshakable. They saw a man consumed, and that fire was contagious. Sacrifice and obsession have that effect. They force the world to pay attention. They create gravity. They pull people into a vision so powerful it becomes impossible to ignore. The truth is, most people are terrified of obsession. They want to believe in balance, in safety, in moderation. But the ones who change the world live on the edge. They let their obsessions devour them because they know the alternative is mediocrity. And mediocrity has never moved the world forward. Steve Jobs sacrificed what others would not. He endured what others could not. And in return, he built what others only dreamed of. His life is proof that sacrifice is not weakness, that obsession is not insanity. They are the weapons of the few who dare to win the war for their minds, and, in doing so, reshape the future. Leadership is often painted as a picture of inspiration, of smiling faces, of people united under a common dream. But the truth is darker. Real leadership is not about being liked. It is not about being comfortable. It is about vision. And vision almost always demands sacrifice, discipline, and decisions that make you misunderstood. Steve Jobs embodied this truth. To many, he was not the friendly, approachable leader people imagine when they think of inspiration. He was demanding. He was relentless. At times, he was brutal. But behind the sharp edges was a truth most people are afraid to face. Leadership is not about making people happy. It is about pulling them toward a future they cannot yet see. When Jobs returned to Apple, the company was sinking. People doubted him, questioned him, even feared him. But he didn't return to win a popularity contest. He returned to save the company. And to do that, he cut projects, shut down divisions, and forced the team to focus on a handful of products that mattered. It was not gentle. It was not easy. But it was necessary, because leadership in times of crisis is not about comfort. It is about clarity. Jobs believed that leaders must be willing to see what others cannot. He saw the future of computing, of music, of phones, long before anyone else did. And when people told him he was wrong, when they doubted him, when they mocked his ideas, he didn't bend. He didn't dilute his vision to please the room. He stood firm, even when it made him unpopular. That is the dark lesson of leadership. If you want to lead, you must be willing to stand alone. The iPhone was born from this mindset. At the time, experts laughed at the idea. A phone with no physical keyboard, a device that combined music, the internet, and communication into one. It sounded impossible, even ridiculous. But Jobs didn't care about the laughter. He cared about the future. He cared about what people would want, before they even knew they wanted it. Leadership is the ability to walk through resistance with unshakable conviction, to bet on a vision no one else can see, and to drag the world there whether it's ready or not. But conviction comes with a cost. Jobs demanded perfection, and that demand broke people. Employees often described him as harsh, even terrifying. He pushed them to the edge because he believed only at the edge could true brilliance be found. He was not interested in being good enough. He was not interested in the easy. He wanted it great, and great always comes with pain. This is the part of leadership people don't talk about. The loneliness, the pressure, the constant battle between being understood and being effective. Jobs lived in that tension every single day. And while it earned him criticism, it also produced results that reshaped entire industries. Leadership, in its darkest form, requires the courage to make decisions that no one else will make. To fire people who can't carry the vision forward, even if they're talented. To kill products that don't fit the bigger picture, even if people worked hard on them. To push for standards so high that they feel impossible, because anything less would betray the mission. That is not the leadership of comfort. That is the leadership of transformation. Jobs believed that being a leader meant creating reality, not following it. And to create reality, you cannot be swayed by fear of criticism. The world will always resist the new. The world will always doubt what it doesn't understand. Leaders absorb that doubt. They carry it like a weight, not because they want to, but because they must. There is a reason people who worked under Jobs, despite the pressure and the difficulty, often describe their time as the most meaningful of their careers. He didn't just demand more, he made them see more. He pulled out brilliance they didn't know they had. He pushed them to touch excellence they thought was impossible. And while it was hard, while it was unforgiving, it changed them. Because true leadership does not leave people the same. The dark lesson is this: leadership is not about making people comfortable in the moment. It is about making them better for the future. It is about carrying a vision so powerful that you are willing to be misunderstood, to be criticized, even to be hated, to bring it to life. Jobs carried that vision with a force that reshaped technology, reshaped culture, and reshaped the way humans interact with the world. He was not loved by everyone, but he was followed. He was not always kind, but he was unforgettable. He was not perfect, but he was undeniable. Because leadership, real leadership, is not about perfection. It is about courage. The courage to demand more when others settle for less. The courage to walk alone when others fear the path. The courage to drag the future into the present, no matter the cost. The war for your mind is not a metaphor. It is real. It is constant. And it is happening right now. Every distraction that pulls at your attention, every label that tries to define you, every temptation that calls you away from your vision, these are battles, and the outcome of those battles determines the course of your life. Steve Jobs understood this war better than most. He fought it with clarity, with discipline, with sacrifice, with obsession. He built his identity instead of letting the world hand him one. He gave up comfort in exchange for creation. He demanded focus, not just from himself but from everyone around him. And in the process, he became proof that one mind, fully committed, can change the direction of the world. But his story is not just about him, it is about you. Because the same war is being fought in your life. The same distractions are trying to steal your future. The same doubts are trying to weaken your identity. The same comforts are tempting you away from your obsession. And the same voices are telling you to stay ordinary, to blend in, to play safe. The question is simple: will you fight? Will you take back your attention? Will you design your identity instead of accepting one? Will you sacrifice the shallow to pursue the meaningful? Will you lead with courage, even if it means standing alone? The war for your mind does not end. It is fought every single day. And every choice you make decides whether you surrender your future or whether you claim it.